Hello, hello, beautiful people of the internet. My name is Whelsko, and we are gonna take a look at another Warzone strategy breakdown, whereby we're gonna talk about the cleanest strategy that I've come across yet, or at least thought of. Because I'm a strategy nerd, I like to do that type of stuff because, well, you know, a good strategy can win you multiple games. And by this one, the Last Dance on I saw it on Netflix. Quite a beautiful story, and I'm a former basketball player, so one of them was the triangle, and the triangle basically was on how to pass the ball around. So that was basically, you know, you always had like people like this, and basically, you know, if this guy moves here, this guy moves here, for example, and that's way, or this guy like this, and basically, it's like you move basically as a shape, So that was the beautiful part about the system, and that, but while I was watching that made me think that, well, that's ideal for Warzone because Warzone has two interesting features, let's of mechanics, let's say, and that's one: um, bullets do not pass through teammates. I don't know if they. I think they block them even. So teammate, mate, block, bullet. And what that means is basically if you are standing with three of your team, in quads next to each other, yeah, if you're shooting somebody and your teammate starts running in front of it, the HC starts bullets. But second, enemy bullets, enemy bullets, or enemies, pass through. And with pass through, man, this is the ugliest writing ever. I don't have pass through. I don't have the proper version of the program. Um, yeah, okay. Basically, you can hit collateral. Collat. Okay. Ugliest writing ever. It's probably not even readable. But the simple idea behind it is, of course, very simply, this is that teammates block bullets. So in other words, if you start shooting and a teammate comes in front, it gets blocked. And this means that if you and your three teammates are perfectly aligned and a enemy starts shooting, which I will try to give you an example, and an enemy starts shooting, then, yeah, they can hit four people at once. Theoretically speaking, of course. And that's basically what I want to talk about and go into the strategy type deal, because in that's combined with the fast-paced nature, the buybacks, the self-revives, um, that's an incredibly powerful strategy to go against. And also, of course, in this is basic strategy, but basically whenever there's like one guy here, and there's an enemy in the middle, you can't fight two battles at once. These guys shoot it, and unless they're super bad and or as cover or some kind of outplay, this guy is dead. That's no possible way. You can't fight multiple angles at once. Um, and so combine that with the previous two rules of this that we just talked about. Yeah, in real life it works different than in a lot of other games such as Counter Strike, etc., where there's friendly fire. It also works different. And for example, here we are completely in the open. I'm about to push this. If one guy stays further behind and starts, is another example of a simple strategy. My boy Psycho over here is driving the truck. If he, if this guy was running in the open, like here, and he was trying to drive him over, you can pretty safely juke the, moderately safely juke the truck. But if here's another guy shooting at you, yeah, then either you're gonna die by the truck or you're gonna die by the shooter. It's a very hard situation to be in. But in general, this is not even necessarily the strat I want to talk about, because we are going for the triangle. Simple put, simple that, and here of course we go on the triangle. Now, first of all, in any situation, you need to know where the enemies are. And in this game, a sniper glint produces whenever the enemy is aiming at you in 15 degrees, I think. And can I pause it on the right second? Basically, if you didn't spot it, the flickering, it was over here. So in this, basically next to the loadout. And here's where the beautiful triangle comes in. So we go, go, go. They're aiming at us. Now we got to juke a little bit. They're shooting. Natural. Got the tanks to hits. But look what's happening. My teammates are going left and I am going right. And that creates basically the triangle. Is going to create the triangle idea that we're going to see in a bit. It will make sense eventually, you know. So here we know that there's a guy. So if I'm correct, I unfortunately can't pinpoint the map, I think. But there's like here a guy, or two guys, and here's one guy. So basically they're like standing in a, you know, what do you call it, a line. Which is a bad idea, because that doesn't provide angles. Here I get popped. Now, if you get it popped here, you know, killed without self-revive, strategy kind of is going to work hard. Because then, since your teammates are dedicated to the flank, my best bet is that, you know, 9 out of 10, in this case they wouldn't have pushed because it's an open field, but 9 out of 10 there's more cover and they might have pushed. So basically, if you get knocked here, you have to wait for your teammate to win, or hope that he wins the flank or he needs to bail. And here's a beautiful strategy in place. Psycho is going to be here. Now, this is a pretty wide version of the strategy. My boy D-Store is over here, and I'm over here. And what do we create? A triangle. Now, this is in trios. In quads, you can do a similar tactic with one up front. But the general idea is that you want to keep your shape. And the wider the base, I wouldn't say the more chance of you have of winning, because, you know, if a third party comes over, you're kind of screwed. And here, of course, we peek methodically. Now, here we already see a beautiful triangle in action. So D-Star, the green one, is shooting at orange. So, and I am here shooting at orange. And what do we have then? We have the triangle. We have the triangle over and over and over again. And as you can see, the base here is pretty wide, which you want to do because with the reason of the first two rules that we talked about. Basically, teammates block bullets and enemies pass bullets through. So if they are with, you know, would be there with 3 guys on that exact same spot, which they are not, then we would have I wouldn't say the upper hand, because they can still shoot us, but they will have trouble maneuvering, trouble healing, and trouble handling the pressure. While we on the other hand, if one of us, you know, gets a hit and has to heal, the other one can pretty easily cover the entire airstrip in this case. Now, it's a special location on the map, so it's not always going to be there. You know, but basically my boy D-Star can watch over this entire area from a pretty safe cover distance in case the pink guys want to push me. Now, we are with 3, and one was still driving the truck. That's the beautiful part about it. And I see, so I'm getting hit, not overly peeking. That was just enough. Just a single headshot to get off. At about half HP. So that was good. Now, here comes the interesting part. He is here and his teammates are like here. So either he runs to his teammates, heals up, or fights back. He's not going to fight back because he is in a tough spot. We are looking with 2 guys, or 3 guys in this case, at them. So what will happen is that one of us is looking like this, the other one is looking like this, and the other one is looking like this. And in Warzone, for example, you have a lot of these, you know, these trees, which if somebody's looking straight at it, pretty easy to hide behind. You know, I mean, if he hide behind the trees, I couldn't hit him. But as soon as one of my teammates further down the line was looking at it, he could see like a toe and he could start chipping away the damage. So, and of course we're gonna see what this guy does. But okay, so he moves. This guy moves from his original spot, I'm assuming he healed by now, to there, which is closer to where his teammates are. And that's the problem with this, the danger with this strategy. Boom, down. And of course here you can see that the beautiful strategy in action. Two guys of them are downed, one here, one is there, and the other one is down here. And look, this is what I mean with the triangle. Check, check, check. All, you know, we got a pretty wide angle looking at it, and this is the more aggro position. If you turn it around with two guys on the back, that's the more defensive position. But, you know, Psycho over here with his truck, and again, hasn't done too much damage, to be honest, because D-Star and I am the one that basically knocked two guys. And there's three of them, of course. So what happens is that he shoots there. He shoots... No, okay, wait. This is not clear. So basically we got two downed already. And the only guy that basically got a little bit of damage was me. And of course we have the elimination forçation because of the game and with the self-revive mechanics and stuff. It's pretty annoying, not gonna lie. And that's it. That was it. And that was a pretty clean strategy. So, what is happening here? I'm gonna try to draw it a little bit simpler, or at least a little bit more clear. Let me see if I can get a good angle without many distractions. Okay, this is good enough. So what happened was, imagine that this is a whiteboard. So basically, I'm gonna use a sky over here. We had one guy sitting over here, one guy sitting over there, and one guy sitting over there. And pink is the enemy, yellow is us. And we were three guys coming from here. Now, I'm assuming it's not entirely exactly how they were positioned, probably. If there was a replay system, I could clearly and effectively show this strategy better, but can't have it all. So, basically, I'm gonna use the, what's a good color for a pad? I'm just gonna use the green. So basically, we were traveling like this, and then the truck stops. And one of the beautiful things is, of course, you can't see somebody jumping out. You can jump out at full speed. It's not one of those mechanics. So, this is basically the path that Psycho traveled. And I jumped out here, behind some cover. Zoink, zoink. D-Star jumped out over there with some cover. And then, of course, you had a big rock, I'm assuming. Can't really see his perspective. And these guys, of course, had rocks as well. So it's something along those lines. And basically, I was fighting with this guy. And I was shooting, of course, towards him. And what you get here is two angles. Unless they have like an entire wall where they can hide behind, you can't do anything about it as an enemy. because that's the beauty about the strat. You have all these different angles covered. If, again, the example of the tree, if you have such a tiny small tree, then as soon as one of these three guys will be able to see you. If this, let's say if this guy was hiding behind a tree, if these two over here couldn't see one, or couldn't see him, Psycho could, Whelsko could, and that's very easy chipping, especially because one of the reasons that in Warzone is that it's so, I wouldn't say let's say easy, is because it's high rate of fire, maximum damage output, and easily fix the, what do you call it? Basically, it's very easy to do a lot of damage in Warzone if you have the right assault rifle, being the Grau, Bruin. Bruin is an LMG, but say something along those lines. And that's what the triangle strategy is all about. Of course, you have to go in team, and that's basically cover the bases. Because if we look at their triangle, what is it? I'll make it a little bit. So I'm gonna assume that this guy was standing something like here. Their triangle is very small. And the idea behind the triangle in strategy is basically that your triangle base needs to be bigger than their triangle base. Assuming they have one, because that's kind of hard. And if this is the case, and then the key, of course, becomes that players, individually survive, either through self-revives, either through cover, either through, vehicles or something along those lines, because this guy can drive around as well. Because generally speaking, a cover, having cover from 180 degrees is, I would say, full 180 degrees is a little bit rare. But even like buildings like this, fire station, there are multiple angles you can find. And the idea behind the triangle is that you have multiple angles covered. And the more angles you have covered and the closer they are, the more chance it is that you are getting collateral, the more chance that nades are going to happen. So basically, you should never stick together. That's basically the point. And it doesn't have to be like this, because this is the aggro way. It can also be a simple base triangle like this. Something along those lines. Let's say these two are going to be going for a melee fight. It's also possible. And then, of course, it's just a matter of fact of where cover is, Zoink, and this guy, let's say, has this cover. It's a simple setup. The bottom guy here can't shoot this guy, but can shoot these two. This guy can shoot this guy very easily. And this guy maybe has an angle here and can distract him. But the idea is just simply by holding the triangle and keeping to it, keeping the formation, or at least communicating the formation a lot, because sometimes it is better to... and it also helps, again, for example, with precision airstrikes and cluster strikes, etc. Because, if somebody's here and somebody's here, only one can get a precision airstrike. But it is a fact that that's one of the counters of this strategy. If the pink team manages to down like this guy, and they throw basically an airstrike on it, after they down him, then it's GG. But the other beautiful thing is you'll never be out of the game, because in that case, this guy can just run away. So that's a possible counter, of course. But generally speaking, the idea is that your base needs to be wide as hell what do you call it? In duos, it works the same way, by the way. Let's say if you have a duo team, and then of course we connect them with blue. That's the whole idea, you know. Basically, in duos, it's a parallel. I don't know exactly. It's like a square, but like with messed up edges. I don't know the English word. I'm sorry. And the idea is again the same. And this guy, in this case, the pink guys are in deep trouble. One nade and both are hit. You know, one angle exposed and both are hit. But the yellow guys in this case, if one dies, the other one doesn't follow because they run away. But if they manage to, you know, if this yellow guy moves over here and this yellow guy moves over here, yeah, then basically the amount of cover they need in order to cover their asses, which they can by, for example, by building. But you also have to like keep in mind if these guys hit these guys and they have to plate, that gives you time to move around, and by the time you moved around, they have to search again where you are. And that's a very cat and mouse game. That's very dangerous. But generally speaking, this would create a new. Well, basically, this creates a one line, and since we know the how the two rules work, in this case, basically, this guy's bullet, you know, number 1 bullets will move through one target, two target, and will be stopped here. And basically, you try to shoot each other in duels with two guys in between. That's the ideal case. Because, of course, hitting a collateral is pretty satisfying. But that's the triangle in trios. So, how does this work in quads? Well, in quads, you have, of course, again, you can go for something like this to cover all bases. Very simple. Or you could, you know, or they could be like some kind of diamond shape formation, you know, because this guy in the front can take the attention. From here, from here, from here, from here. And the closer you are, the harder it is to get an angle. Yeah. Or the harder it is to get a decent angle. And these guys, you know, they can provide cover. You know, if somebody pushes this guy at the front in the pink, they can, you know, like the yellow guy can't shoot back at him. But the beautiful thing about this, nobody, you know, keeps in mind the formation, and it's the formation that makes it work. Knowing when, and as a team, by the way, and you basically don't even have to call it out. You have to call it out. You know, if somebody's like, oh shit, I'm getting pushed by a lot of guys, and then of course it's important to keep the formation. But basically, generally speaking, if you're winning a fight, you want to go wider. The more basically pressure you put, the wider you have to go, and the more pressure they put, also the wider you have to go. But sometimes, you know, let's say this guy is down, this guy could, for example, keep the fire while this guy goes there. That's not the situation you necessarily want. It's better for this guy to go revive, because then you still have a somewhat formation, or at least have a white stripe, because it's the two rules that basically allow what makes teaming up, or at least playing together in this game is a bad idea. And also, you know, you can throw a Semtex accidentally at your teammate and stuff. Like here, here you want the, you know, if let's say the ping guys are pushing, and you manage to hit a Semtex on your teammate, and you know, let's say there's like a small tree or something like that here. You know, by the time the guy tries to peek around the corner, Semtex explodes. So that's what you want. But you don't want to have that when you're basically standing with 3 guys like this, and one of them, one is knocked, so he's trying to revive, and you're all sitting like a good old rock, like we've seen in the example here, although they were split up a little bit. Basically, you should never stay together, not even to revive. So basically, what you have here is, let's say this, yellow team is doing the triangle formation bad, but the pink guys are doing the triangle formation extremely good. So what could happen is basically something along the lines of this. It's an extreme example, point, point, point. And basically the idea is that the base, in this case, of the triangle is the one that basically moves over, like, you keep pushing forward with 2, and you want this line, the line connecting the 2 front guys, to basically go over the enemy player. If the line goes over, both of them have a clear shot to hit. Or at least one of them has a clear shot to hit. And that's important, because especially with a gun like Grout, it's like half second, and that's, bye-bye. Without headshots, And having, because a lot of these guns, the load time to kill in this game doesn't really matter. What does matter is the fact that the guns have, basically you can hit a lot of shots in a small amount of time for a little amount of effort. Wow, that was a sentence to form. And what do I mean by that? Basically it's just too easy to hit players with a gun. It's basically not even worth to take a sniper. There was recently a game where I, in the Bruin meta, that was horrible. You couldn't even play with a sniper against 200 meters away from somebody, because the Bruin basically did more damage faster, unless you basically hit non-stop headshots with a sniper, which is impossible. But, like, you couldn't even play sniper because the Bruin was doing so much damage for so little amount of effort. And that's every overpowered gun in this game is high rate of fire, low recoil, high damage output. That's all. Or not even high damage, just low recoil and a lot of firepower. So, that being said, that's basically the triangle, the important thing about the triangle. It's always, and that's the same here. Like, the base didn't really, didn't even touch the guys, but let's say if Psycho, my man Psycho, was pushing up to here, it was hard because that was also an open field, based on my map knowledge, and he was here, then the base would have touched, for clarity's sake. And, if I moved up here again, which I couldn't, because you clearly saw the airstrip, but let's say I used a truck, and used the truck as a piece of cover by moving up here, and the enemies by that time were like moving closer and closer together, that's the ideal, basically. That's the ideal version of the strat. That's what I mean. Zoink. Okay, this is the lines are getting quite complicated, but like, ideally speaking, if you can, but that's literally bullying them around, and that's 95% of the cases never gonna happen. But let's say they are quite together, a little bit disorganized, so something like this. And in the same case, we're gonna use the same example. There's some rocks here, some rocks here, there's an opening. There's like a little bit of rock, so it's like half cover. Something along those lines. And, we can even use it. The problem with this strategy is, of course, that third-party team. So in this case, theoretically speaking, these two guys have a clear shot. The guy in the back, not necessarily. I mean, you know, if you're fighting and they bring you the pink team at half the plates, you know, basically if somebody else tries to flank these guys, so we're gonna use, which color do we not have used yet? No, let's use green. So the green guys come in and basically use this strat in this particular order: bang, 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 and that's, you know, you can't do anything about that. If the guns had like an insane amount of recoil, you could at least somewhat try to fight back. But since every single gun here is a laser beam, you know, it's not really applicable in this case. So basically, you're completely screwed. If you're in this game, more than like, for example, PUBG or Fortnite, if you have to fight two guys, more than likely you're screwed. But generally speaking, in a case like this, ideally even, you know, because like the enemy also has to know where everybody of your team is. Ideally, you know, you might have one of your team here, doing, you know, having some cover here and, you know, trying to peek left and right, and then the other two go like, maybe I should use green to highlight the path that's being walked. So let's say these yellow guys start out the same position, putting pressure, and what do you create? Here, here, and of course, very important thing to note with this, what do you call it? Never fight without cover. Never. Always move from cover point to cover point instead of a straight line. For example, the airfield. It's better to go like, you know, basically if you are here and you want to go to here on the minimap, what a lot of players do is zoink straight up. Never. Especially not in a game as Warzone where you cannot juke bullets as easily. What you want to do is try to get from cover. I mean, it's theoretically the same thing, so kind of disproving my own point. Yeah, but what I would do in this case is move to here, go to the buy station, check around a little bit. Then you have these things, then move like that, and preferably move like there. Although it's probably a better route now that I think of it to move to the airplane and then there. But basically, and of course, if you want to do it, use deployable shield cover at least. Which again is one of those things that does not see any use, because, you know, you would assume that a shield turret is the one that basically has no recoil, but since any gun in this game has almost no recoil except the Rytec DMR, the Rytec sniper rifle, which, you know, why that one and not everything else. That being said, we are going to focus more. You know, you have to move from cover to cover as much as you can. Sometimes it's better to run an open field and to move without. But the thing is just, the reason we do this is you want to always have the least amount of distance from one cover point to the next. And not what is faster, but the least amount of distance. And why do we say that the least amount of distance? Basically, as soon as you get caught by an enemy that you didn't foresee, by calculating in the least amount of distance needed to cover, you maximize your potential for survival. And that's why it's important that if you're going to do this strat, that your teammate, you know, doesn't start firing in the open. If, for example, this guy had this yellow dude over here in this strat had a cover point here, but he started shooting here, and these three pink dudes instantly started to look back and fire, while this guy couldn't see it. This guy still has to peek. Yeah, then this guy is dead. And that's why it's important, because that's the beautiful thing about it, about this strategy. You can always just ping pong around. And what do I mean with ping ponging around? I simply mean like this guy peeks. You know, let's say this guy peeks. And, you know, these three guys start looking at him. As soon as these three start looking and shooting back, he moves back, the other guy peeks, and then you can basically like ping pong them around. But in this case, if you really want to bully them, you have to make sure that the whole enemy team is within your own triangle. Now, one more thing we have to think about or make sure is that basically there are other teams at play. And for example, this guy can get pushed by another team. And then of course it becomes a little bit tricky on how to do this properly. Because, then you need to be careful. So, you can of course counter, make sure UAVs, in urban areas, this strategy is way harder to pull off, although it's still possible. In urban areas, a vertical triangle, so let's say a horizontal view, there's one stick dude, another stick dude, and let's say they have like a little wall of cover here. And then of course, there's one yellow stick dude here. And then of course, there's like basically a roof over here, something like that. And we have another little stick dude over here. And of course, he's shooting from a window. Zoink, zoink, zoink. Okay, welcome to my attempt at drawing a building. But again, this also counts as a baseline, because the idea is just to have a different angle. So if it's this or this, doesn't matter, or this. What matters is that you have multiple ones. So basically this guy could rain down, this guy could rain down. And of course, having a vehicle helps a lot, because for some reason vehicles are third person instead of first person view. Don't ask me why, but this could be also helped, for example, by parking a truck over here, or for example, the way Psycho did it in this clip earlier. What do you call it? Because again, we could have easily been caught here multiple times. This is Wink. Here I'm in the open shooting. Very bad move. Very bad move. Didn't take care of cover. Very bad move. But one of the beautiful things is with trucks, for example, it's super hard to hit the guy that's driving a truck. Extremely hard. The trucks are basically what you want to have. But he can use the truck while driving in this, this path that he's driving in. He can look around in third person view and see the whole area from a pretty safe distance. He can even see over walls and stuff. So that's one way to keep in mind. Of course, UAVs, advanced UAVs. But then again, you can't account for ghosts. Then of course you can make sure that think about set claymores, bouncing baddies, although probably nobody's ever using them except for campers. And if you're a camper, this strategy will never work, because the key about this is movement and aggression, or at least putting pressure, not necessarily aggression. Pressure is the key word. So yeah, that's basically the whole idea of the strategy. Nothing more to add. And of course here we see we have another example, a clearer example, since we are pushing together or pushing towards each other. Another example of the the strat. And of course these guys, their triangle was nothing more than this. It's not even a triangle, it's more of a straight line, and that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. And how do you implement this in team? Well, of course, everybody needs to know what they have to do with the triangle. Need to know when they have to keep a long base, when they have to keep a short base. In some situations, shorter base will be very better. One of those is when they can't really push your angles, but you have a fortified position. For example, this tower over here. Having a very short angle is probably better if you're holding the top. But generally speaking, if there's room to maneuver for you and the enemies, it's best to take as much space as you can get without sacrificing too much, of course. But again, like if you know, whatever enemy is behind these rocks, you know, they could still kill one of us, sure, but one of us three will see it and will be able to retaliate, assuming assuming the team can aim, of course. So basically, the more ground that your base covers, the more chance you have of winning a gunfight, if you can manage it. That is, of course. So, but that being said, this was Whelsko. I really hope you enjoyed this strategy. Try to talk it over with your team, and you don't even have to communicate with your team as much anymore, because you can just say to each other, you know, I'm going wide or something like that. You know, pushing them, something along those lines. And of course, basically, when you say pushing, I mean flanking, you know, always flank. And if you can encircle them, that's how Genghis Khan, sometimes, there's a little history fact. I don't know exactly what the Mongol horde is called, but one of the strategies that they would do is literally they made like huge circles of basically like little horsemen driving around, and their strategy was, that's one of the ways they conquered the whole world. You know, big circles, so it's 360 degrees angles. Nothing can fight it. And what they would do is they would make the circle smaller and smaller and smaller, and you know, if there was a lot of prey, and so for example in hunting, you know, all the animals would be here and it would just be easy pickings. You know, since the Mongol horde conquered almost the whole of Eurasia, just Asia, and almost got to Europe, that's often a tactic that they did with you know, live enemies, and since they were on horseback and stuff, was very hard to fight back. And basically, you know, circle, 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 and the same thing works here if you can manage it, because in this case there are of course 50 teams or so in trios that trying to hunt you down. So that's another fun little history fact. I'll see if I can put the military, you know, the military history thingy on here as well. So that being said, I really hope you learned something new. I really hope you enjoyed it. This is Whelsko signing off.